Welcome back. The Building Bridges initiative is this morning receiving views on the constitutional changes sought by Kenyans, with the hearings set to be done at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Among the groups that will be presenting their views this morning is the Embrace Kenya team. Let's cross over there and listen in.
Choose and compile this 5-point agenda. At this juncture, allow me to recognize by name members of Embrace who are present here and several partners. Allow me to recognize Governor Charity Kaluki, Governor of Kitui County, Governor Ann Mumbi Weganjo, Governor of Kirinyaga County, Kamotho. We are still getting used to the new title, but we're doing well. Senator Zipporah Kitoni, a trailblazer, our Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs, Honorable Rachel Shebesh, Honorable Niva Mwendwa, a trailblazer and great woman, Honorable Judy Sijeni, Senator Gertrude Musuruve, also representing the Parliamentary Caucus on Persons with Disability, Honorable Ruth Mwaniki, Honorable Naisula Lesuda, Honorable Florence Mutua, Honorable Jessica Mbalu, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, Honorable Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, Honorable Mercy Gakuya, Honorable Priscilla Nyokabi, Honorable Elsie Muhanda, Honorable Rosa Buyu, Honorable Mishi Mboko, Honorable Dr. Eve Obara, Honorable Danita Gatti, also representing the Parliamentary Caucus on Persons with Disability, Honorable Captain Rueda from Lamu County, Honorable Peris Tobiko, Kajiado East, Honorable Sabina Wanjiro Shege, Honorable Gadhoni Wamushomba, Honorable Dr. Christy Nombaka, Gloria Ndekei of the private sector, Honorable Fatuma Ibrahim of Yala, Honorable Dr. Lillian Gogo, Honorable Professor Jacqueline Oduol, Winnie Kaburu, Honorable Beatrice Adagala, Honorable Esther Mudhoni Pasaris, who's also our host, Nairobi woman representative and our host, who will have a chance to say something, Senator Naomi Shionga, Rahab Nambuki, Honorable Fatuma Gedi, Honorable Gladwell Tungo, Honorable Edith Nyenze, Senator Abshiro Soka Halake, Honorable Irene Kasalu, and Honorable Gertrude Mbeyu. Also allow me to recognize the partners present, Honorable Zuleha Hassan. The baby is not here today. The baby is not here today, but can come in any time. Allow me to recognize the partners present and who have worked with us this journey of preparing this memorandum. The Maendeleo ya Wanawake, represented here by a big team led by Rahab Muya, the chair. Equality Now, the Coalition of Violence Against Women, Femnet, the Association of Media Women in Kenya, AMWIC, FIDA Kenya, the Center for Rights, Education and Awareness, CRU, Kenya Women's Medical Association, KEMWA, Kenya Women Political Alliance, the Women's March, Youth Agenda, the Kenya Women Teachers Association, KEWOPA, represented there by very able leadership, Jacinta and their CEO. I've already recognized the Caucus of Persons with Disability in Parliament, the Kenya Association of Business Owners, the KEPSA Foundation, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, Kenya Women in Tourism, Women County Assembly Forum, all the MCAs in the house, women student leaders. We have student leaders from across African Center for Women Studies of the University of Nairobi, Mothers of the Nation, and for their funding support, we'd like to recognize USID through FHI 360, LGIA, or the widows. Yeah. Thank you, widows. The National Democratic Institute, and the women trailblazers who supported us through this process, including Dr. Ida Odinga, Mama Phoebe Asio, and posthumously, Her Excellency Governor Joyce Laboso. So let me just say that we, the women of Kenya, Embrace and its partners convened on 5th February 2019 at Hotel Intercontinental to discuss the BBI process and the Big Four agenda with a record attendance of 274 national and county women leaders representing different cadres and sectors to be able to put this document together. The women take this golden opportunity and moment to hereby salute His Excellency President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, for their brave and historic handshake that will for decades shape the political and governance destiny of our beloved country on 9th March 2018 at Harambee House, Nairobi. Since that heroic moment, the nation of Kenya, which hitherto was at crossroads and had experienced heightened political temperatures related to the highly contested and divisive presidential general elections held on 8th August 2017 and the repeat elections on 26th October, quickly began experiencing some normalcy, political tolerance, and inter-ethnic harmony, as well as investor confidence. Co-chairs, at this juncture, I would like to welcome Honorable Senator Zipporah Kitoni, so that in 3 minutes she could just give us the journey that the women of this country have walked to get to the point we are today. Karibu, Senator.
I'll be brief. Yes. Chair, PPI, and members, honorable governors, my sister, the trailblazer Nyiva Mwendwa, and all the women of Kenya. Good morning. Good morning. It's indeed an honor and privilege for me to be asked to say something on this initiative. It's very difficult to come up and tell you the journey of women with the time that I've been told. It's a very short time, but I will attempt to at least say something that the journey of women in this country has been a very long and windy journey. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because we were not included in the Lancaster House when the negotiations were done in the first instance. And there was no woman who went to Lancaster except one, the late Priscilla Abuao, but she was not able to articulate the issues of women as it would have been. So that was the first mistake that was ever done. A number of things have been done. The Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization was formed by the colonial women in 50s, and the governor, the wife of the governor, Renison, was the first chair, and she took it on until 1959, when she realized that their time was going, and therefore they involved the African women. And therefore, in 1959, we had, the organization was started in 52 by the colonial women, but when they realized in 59 that I think their time is come, they had to involve the African women. And therefore, in 1958, Maendeleo ya Wanawake, the key players, those who participated, included Grace John, Maki Gona, Aida Mbotela, Rebecca Kaloki, Chai Limboko, Phoebe Asio, Elizabeth Mwenda. Most of them are gone, except Chai Limboko is still with us. And then in 1961, Honorable Phoebe Asio became the first president of Maendeleo ya Wanawake. And therefore, and it was followed by Elizabeth Mwenda, the late Elizabeth Mwenda, the late Ruth Habwe, the late Chen Giano, Mrs. Teresa Shitaka, she's still with us, the late Mary Mwamodo, the late Francisca Otete, Mrs. Wilkista Onsando, myself, Rukia Supo, and currently we have Rahab Muyu, who is still carrying the organization on. And in the formative years, they were engaged in nutrition, dressmaking, embroidery, home hygiene, among other things. But what I want to say is that along the journey, other voices came because we had to make our voices heard. So we added the National Council of Women, League of Kenya Women Voters, ECWD, FIDA, which you've just heard, and Femnet. And in 80s, the women of Kenya were very vibrant, very vibrant. I say that because we were #1 in the region. And all of a sudden, because I think we were getting enlightened and getting to know so many things, we were now hit by the bandits of men and jealousy. And therefore, we lost a number of things. And along the way, Femnet was supporting the region. I'm saying, for example, Rwanda. We had to lend Chonjogi Wainaina to go to Uganda, go to Zambia, go to Rwanda, to talk about women in leadership, because Kenya was very, very high in the region. And then we all of a sudden lost it completely because of our own infighting. The men could not see these women going very far. And therefore, I said, if I talk about women and leadership, it will take a long time. We had to engage in projects promoting quality of life in our homes and so on and so on. We fought FGM. We have legalized a number of things that I think we all know, but the core problem up to now is that we are still fighting for equality on the high table of leadership, which I do not know what has hindered you men of Kenya not to allow us to have 50-50. The 2/3 gender up to now is still a thorn in our flesh, and yet it is in the Constitution. So how do you want these women of Kenya to behave? Because we really nearly brought the country down because of that problem. And I think we have the very educated people, including Amos Welcome, my friend, over there. And therefore, I think these voices now, the voices you've heard are getting more and more. And therefore, I think it is time that we cannot lose a moment, so that we have to be inclusive. Women of Kenya must be recognized as the same partner in every aspect, and therefore, I really do not want to say much. My concern and our plea is that the building bridges read this memorandum, critique it, and consider that the women of Kenya are the core and the pillars of this country, and they are the strong pillar that the women of Kenya are dependent upon. And therefore, I do not want to dwell on the speech. I think this is what I would like you to understand, that the women are there to make this country go forward, and the women are the strongest developers of our nation. Without a woman, there is no country. Thank you very much.
Let me now invite Honorable Naisula Lesuda, please, to read the preamble.
Thank you very much. We, the women of Kenya, from all walks of life, political, religious, economic persuasions, appreciate the need for unity and stability of the nation. Echo the preamble of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, affirms that Kenyans are proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation, and emphasize the need for national cohesion and integration that seeks to unify Kenyans and rally them towards the achievement of economic, political, and social development. Recognize and appreciate that one of the national values and principles of governance espoused under Article 10 of the Constitution is inclusivity and representation of women, persons with disabilities, youth, ethnic and other minorities, and marginalized communities. We believe in constitutionalism and the rule of law. We urge all leaders in the country at the national and county levels to respect the rule of law and work towards the full operationalization of the Constitution. We support minimal amendments to the Constitution, but only those that are necessary. Women will only support changes that will strengthen rather than erode the current gains for women, vulnerable and marginalized populations. We, the women of Kenya, recognize that women make over 51% of population of Kenya and youth make 70 to 80% of the Kenyan population. All national development agendas, whether political, social, economic, and environmental, must be defined on how well they positively impact the livelihoods of women and youth. We acknowledge that the women of Kenya suffer disproportionately each time the country experiences violence. This is evidenced in the suffering meted on women in the post-election violence of 2017, 2018, and 2013, and fear of repeat in the subsequent elections. Thus, women are the champions of peace and reconciliation. Women of Kenya are also the main victims in the increased cases of femicide, sexual and gender-based violence, and domestic abuse, among other atrocities. Therefore, the women of Kenya reaffirm our full support for the devolved system of governance in Kenya because it is the greatest tool for facilitating equity through financial, inclusive governance and development. We unequivocally support the war on corruption and demand for integrity, accountability, moral probity, and political neutrality at national and county levels. We recognize the government's deliberate efforts to implementing Article 43 of the Constitution, which provides for economic and social rights through the Big Four agenda, which covers the hopes and aspirations of Kenyans in our shared prosperity. Rededicate ourselves to the values of nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, family, communities, and the nation, and seek to address issues that have divided Kenyans in the past. We appreciate the struggle for Kenyans and for women in attaining the gains already achieved and also recognize the gains not yet achieved. We therefore share in BBI's need to come up with a new Kenya, a Kenya that addresses the 9 issues under the BBI's initiative, which this submission has captured under the 5-point agenda. As part of this national dialogue, we call upon the observance of the following overriding parameters. No amendment of the Constitution of Kenya should in any way to erode or derogate the rights of women, youth, and persons with disabilities, minorities, and the marginalized groups that are already contained in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naisula. Our presentation is going to be given in 5 parts: inclusivity and national cohesion, the Big Four, the women and the fight against corruption, women and devolution, women and the Big Four agenda, and women participating in peace, safety, and security. To cover the first part on women and inclusivity and national cohesion, I would like to, our 2 governors will cover that first part, and first I would like to invite Governor Charity Kaluki-Ngilu to start us off.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chairman and the BBI team. And thank you for having us here this morning. I want to say just what we as women of Kenya want to have you include in the recommendations that you are going to make. The agenda item relates to the BBI agenda item on ethnic antagonism and competition, lack of national ethos, inclusivity rights and responsibilities, divisive elections, safety and security, and a shared prosperity. The proposal seeks to highlight inclusion, national cohesion, principles of equality and freedom from the discrimination in all national and county policies, laws, and administrative in all public, private, and political spheres. 51% of the Kenyan population are women. However, they only constitute 21.8% in the National Assembly and 31.3% in the Senate. Elected women senators are 3 out of 47, which translates to 6%. Elected women representing constituencies in the National Assembly are 24 out of 290, which translates to 8.3%, and the female governors have been 3. Now we are 2, which translates to, again, 3%. We observe that as country, we have a long way to go in the election of women. Thus, our strong defense of the gains of women in the 2010 Constitution. Inclusivity in the executive. We observe that our nation has, since the reintroduction of multi-party politics, experienced divisive elections and political turbulence. The first past the post electoral system in Kenya, characterized by the winner-take-it-all mentality and mania, has been problematic, as evidenced in the elections of 1991, 1992, 1997, 2007, 2008, 2013, and 2017. Pre- and post-election violence. To enhance peace, stability, cohesion, and integration of the 44+ communities in Kenya, we make the following proposals and recommendations. Number 1, the expansion of the presidency and executive, with more seats at the top to provide for president, deputy president, prime minister, and 2 deputy prime ministers, through amendment of Chapter 9 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 to provide for functions, swearing in, removal, remuneration, and the benefits of the prime minister and the 2 deputy prime ministers. That the opposite gender rule shall be applied in the expanded presidency, with the 2 seats ring-fenced for women. In actual fact here, although we have said 2 seats, we're just saying actually that, since independence, the 2 top seats have been going to men. So the 3 that should be now put in the Constitution should actually go to women. Similarly, the opposite gender rule shall be applied in national, county governments, and all executive bodies, including during elections, to provide that where a presidential candidate is male, the running mate should be female. Or where the presidential candidate is female, the running mate should be male. Opposite gender. This pattern will follow at gubernatorial level, where the governor candidates and running mates will be of opposite gender. Women, while appreciating the contribution and delivery witnessed with the current women cabinet secretaries, proposes a 50-50 gender rule balance. Technocrats from outside parliament and the members of parliament, as well as outside parliament and county assemblies, and within the county assemblies in the composition of the cabinet by presidency and the governors, respectively. The Republic of Kenya should borrow a leaf from the composition of the Ghanaian cabinet, which is the best practice and the model of executive inclusivity in Africa. We further propose that a 50-50 male and female gender rule shall be applied in the appointment of cabinet secretaries and other state public offices in the Republic of Kenya to the National Executive Government Secretaries structure and county executive committee structure across the 47 counties. We advocate for a mandatory 50-50 gender rule application in the appointment of principal secretaries, high commissioners, and diplomatic and consular representatives. And finally, on my part, women submit that the 50-50 gender rule shall be extended to all other presidential appointments, including commissions, boards, task force, etc., etc. We would like to see, actually, today we are very encouraged when we sat here and we saw the front table, that this is what we want to see. We want women on that high table where decisions are being made, where resources are being shared. The woman carries the burden of the family and of the country. We thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Ngilu. Let me now welcome Governor Ann Mumbi to please take over.
Chair of the BBI and all the members of the BBI, I will share the portion on the inclusivity in the legislature at the national and county levels. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 is unequivocal on the need to have two-thirds gender rule observed in the composition of the Senate and the National Assembly. Currently, the composition of the Parliament does not meet the gender threshold to the detriment of women, and there is a need for full implementation of the Constitution to protect the gains of women enshrined within the 2010 Constitution by ensuring the implementation of the two-thirds gender rule in the composition of the National Assembly and Senate. We are of the considered and informed opinion that the challenge in that issue above can be achieved through the following options. 1, 50-50 mixed member proportional representation in the legislature. Mixed member voting systems are growing in popularity around the world as a method of proportional voting for determining the makeup of legislative chamber. This system ensures that people have representatives of their specific constituencies in the legislature who should be primarily concerned with the local issues and concerns. In addition to this local representation, the mixed member proportional representation makes sure that the party that has the most support, nation or region-wide, also has a majority of seats in the legislature. That the mixed member proportional representation, that with mixed member proportional representation, a certain number of seats in the legislature is set aside for constituency representatives. Another set of seats is held reserved for individual parties. These seats are used as accountability seats to compensate for unfair and unbalanced partisan results in the constituency elections. With a mixed member proportional representation, a certain number of seats is set aside for representatives. These seats are used as accountability seats to compensate for unfair and balanced gender representation. Thus, we propose amendment to reduce geographical constituencies by 50%, and the extra 50% seats anchored in the Constitution will be filled through party lists comprising the names of candidates based on a zebra list of female, male, female, male. We acknowledge that elections through party lists is already part of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, as it is used to fill the 12 special interest seats in Parliament. Women recommend that Parliament should enact regulations that seal the loopholes exploited by some political parties and their leadership to nominate their family members, relatives, friends, and cronies at the expense of merit and those who have dedicated their time, resources, and energy campaigning for such political parties, only to be betrayed at the altar of nepotism and favorism. Indeed, by filling the proposed 50 seats through the party list, the country shall have a more realistic method of achieving gender balance. We are of the informed position that election through proportional representation electoral system is a popular and time-tested method of translating electoral support into parliamentary seats the world over. We observe that under the proportional representation electoral system, a list is presented to the Electoral Commission before the general election date, and once the results are known, the targeted seats are allocated to the parties and filled in proportion to the member of the seats garnered. For instance, if a party wins half of the seats, it will be entitled to fill 50% of the party list seats, and the gender to fill them would depend on how many seats were won by men and women in the different elections. We have an alternative point of view and proposal in the event that the country does not change its current electoral system or retains the first past the post system electoral system. Then, the presidential candidate with the second greatest number of votes in the general election or runoff and running mate to become the leader of the Senate and the National Assembly, respectively. There should be direct election of Senate, retaining 16 seats for women and 4 for special interest seats. Delegation vote to be with elected senator, but in consultation with the county delegation. The nominated, that is mostly women, senators, to be given power to vote in matters of national interest and not to be caged or curtailed by their nominating authorities in the name of unquestionable loyalty to the political party. We propose a constitutional amendment on Articles 90, 97, and 98 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 in order to achieve the not more than 2/3 of either gender rule in the Senate and National Assembly. This can be easily achieved by importing the constitutional formula in Article 177(1)(b) and 2, which provide that a county assembly consists of the number of special seat members necessary to ensure that not more than 2/3 of the membership of the assembly is of the same gender, and 2, the members contemplated in Clause 1B shall in each case be nominated by political parties in proportion to the seats received in that election in that county by each political party under paragraph A in accordance with Article 90. Article 90 of the Constitution be amended in Clause 2A, which provides that each political party participating in a general election nominates and submits a list of all the persons who would stand elected if the party were to be entitled to all the seats provided under Clause 1, within the time prescribed by national legislation, by deleting the words "within the time prescribed by national legislation." That is the proposal we are making, that we delete that and adding the words "within 14 days after the general election." We recommend that the party list should be done and submitted to IEBC and after the general elections, and only women who contested or actively supported the party are eligible for nomination. This will help enhance transparency and also reduce the chances of nominating people on the basis of nepotism and other undemocratic considerations. There is need to amend the election laws and election regulations to grant more powers to the Electoral Management Body to administer harsh penalties and punishment for political parties and party officials who may have abused universal standards and democratic nomination criteria and procedures. Our recommendations, therefore, for inclusivity on other public appointments are as follows: that the opposite gender rule shall apply to all arms of government, similar to Article 166C, where the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice are of opposite gender. That the opposite gender rule shall apply to the Governor and Deputy Governor, Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Chairperson and Vice Chairperson of Committees of Parliament. That the 50-50 gender rule shall apply in all county executive bodies, including the nomination of all county executives and chief officers as an absolute rule. That we apply the 50-50 gender rule in all public service recruitment and even in the military service. We submit that the inclusivity and equality principles extend to all special interest groups, including women, youth, persons with disabilities, children, older members of society, and ethnic minorities and marginalized groups. We further submit that 5% appointments in the public sector to be reserved for persons with disabilities, with stringent measures for non-compliance by any state organ. The word progressive implementation in the application of persons with disability rights in Article 54(2) of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which states that the state shall ensure the progressive implementation of the principle that at least 5% of the members of the public in elective and appointive bodies are persons with disability. The deletion of the words progressive implementation will mean that the 5% allocation for persons with disabilities is implemented immediately, noting this is in 9 years after the promulgation of the Constitution. There is no need for any further delay. We strongly recommend that 20% of all public appointments at the national and county government levels be reserved for youth based on their qualification and merit, without overemphasizing on the requirement of experience or not more than 3 years. The current trend of asking for more than 3 years experience has often rendered many youth applicants ineligible and unqualified for public position and jobs, which have become a reserve for adults and elderly applicants. We observe that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 does not provide for a threshold of appointive and elective seats for the youth, that is 18 to 34 years, yet they constitute approximately 40% of the population. Without the constitutional threshold, it becomes very difficult to hold government and public bodies accountable in inclusion of the youth in governance affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Let me now invite Honorable Edith Nyenze to come and take us through women